All right, welcome back, everybody. Today's Saturday. Next weekend, we will be at Montgomery for the third round of the Show Me the Money series. Taking the same car back. It's all ready to go already. Luckily, we didn't tear too much up, so pretty quick turnaround on it. But today, we're going to do something a little different. We had someone request to show how we do some of our setup stuff a little bit. So Dad does most of the setup stuff, obviously, so we're going to let him take over for this video and show y'all how we do our shocks, how we run them on the load machine.
Now the sun is just starting to climb up over the treetops, and it's gonna be a beautiful day, that's plain to see.
Welcome to Bill Dance Outdoors, America's most popular and longest running TV fishing show.
Now I've gone fishing with Bill Dance today.
All right, this is the way we do it once we get the car set. All our heights and everything are where we want them. Front end set, everything's ready to hit the racetrack, ready to go through tech. Get the driver in the car and we'll mark. I have to show them. We'll take a Sharpie and mark where this mark is at on this hind. And that's going to be our static height. From that point, we pull the main springs off, have our bump springs on. We'll set the car down on just the bump springs on our scale boxes, get under and measure to the cross member on the left and the right side. And you want those as even as you can get them. And without having to pull down, we have to do it and take into consideration tire squish, tire flex. So we set ours 1 inch, both sides. If you want the right side a little higher, you have to set the right side a little higher, whatever. We'll get a measurement center to center, and then we'll put everything back together and we'll go to our load machine. And then your load machine, you just run up until your mark is where it was on the hind. You write down your load number, that's your static load number. You write down your measurement, that's your static measurement. And you run the machine up to your stop. And we always get it to where this is pretty tough to move. And that'll be your engaged height, where you're actually starting to put load on the bump stop. You'll take that measurement and write it down, and your load number and write it down, and then you'll go to your max travel, which you got when you were measuring on the bump stops a while ago. And then you'll write down that measurement and that load number, and that's going to get you pretty close. You'll be maybe a little high, but you want to be a little high. You don't ever want to hit the racetrack because it takes tires out of the racetrack. Then you take all your numbers, and these are not actual numbers, so do not use those numbers. All right, after we get everything set, we know our shims are like we want to start. We've got our mark for our static. I'll come in and measure down 4 inches and put a tape mark or put a paint mark, either or. And what that does, you can come in after a run and put the car up on jack stands, and you can just measure from this tape mark to the top of this indicator, wherever the car traveled to, with your tape measure setting on 4 on this mark, and that'll tell you exactly how much it traveled. So, you know, if you traveled 3 inches from here to here, we'll show 3 inches with the tape measure sitting at 4 inches on your mark. Just makes it easier to measure. You don't have to wait to get the car up. You can pick the car up and go ahead, and people can start doing what they need to do, and you can walk around and get your measurements and not have to wait. People don't have to wait on you to get your measurements to be able to do what they need to do. We do that on all 4 corners. Most of the time you're not going to travel more than 4 inches. Okay, so now you got all your numbers, and you can go in and do the math and figure out your air gap, how much you're actually into the bump, how much you're compressing the bump, and how much bump load you're getting. So, you know, we're engaged at 16.315, which is when we're just starting to touch the bump, and it's 1,100 pounds of load. You subtract 19,149, subtract 16,315, and your air gap comes up to 2.834 inches. That's how much space there is between the top shim or packer and the bottom of the shock. It's how much it'll travel before it actually hits. You can into the bump, how much you're compressing the bump. Take your 16,315, subtract 15,995, you come up with 320 thousandths. That's how much you're actually compressing the bump. Take your 1601 max load, subtract your engaged load, 1,100, that's 501 pounds of load. So from that, we can go to the racetrack, and we know we're not gonna hit the racetrack. We may have to pull an 1/8 inch packer out or a 16th packer out to get where we want to be on a race run. We want to be, normally with our stuff, we want to be about an 1/8 inch off a racetrack, 3/16 on old tires. That way when you put new tires on, the car's a little lower till the air pressures build up and the tires grow a little bit. When you put new tires on, taped up, you're getting in the corner harder. The car still, it may hit, but it'll just touch. It won't hit enough to pick the front tires up out of the track and make the car take off. We know that 1/8 to 3/16 on old tires will get us there. Every chassis may be a little different, every driver may be a little different, but that's how we go about starting out the day at the racetrack and knowing where we are and figure out where we need to be. And it works for us. May not be the right way, but it works for us. That's how we come up with our numbers. If you don't have a pull down, you have to do it the way we do, which is setting the car down on the bump springs, getting your heights right, and knowing, you kind of have to know how much tire deflection you're going to have, how much tire squish you're going to have. We know on the F45s, we have to set it at about 1 inch for us to be pretty close. And when we get to the racetrack, we won't hit, but you know, we may have to pull a packer out, or we may have to add a packer, because you want it as low as you can get it without hitting the racetrack. And we try to stay on older tires. We want to be normally about an 1/8 inch off a racetrack. That'll get you to where maybe you just barely touch on a mock run or on a qualifying run on sticker tires, because the car's not going to be quite as high on sticker tires until the pressures build up and the tires grow a little bit. So that's the way we do it. It may not be right, but it works for us. Maybe that's what the guy's looking for, and it'll help them a little bit.